All right, we are live. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I call this podcast and show and platform the break room, but I spell it differently. Brake, like the brakes on the car. And the reason why I spell it like that is because I feel like sometimes in life we need to stop, pump the brake, and reflect on where we've been and where we're going. Now, I have my father here, Mr. Kenel, Charles Kenel de Guat, and we actually recorded an episode a few nights ago that'll come out tomorrow morning. It'll be on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, where you can subscribe. But in the midst of a long conversation that you'll hear tomorrow, an in-depth conversation about my father's journey, there's one major piece of the puzzle I forgot to even question him about. And it's an important piece. It's always been on my mind to converse with him about, but I forgot. I totally forgot. So I told my dad this afternoon, listen, we have to document this conversation ASAP. So it deserves its own mini episode, mini conversation where we'll explore thoroughly. So, and the topic is Freemasonry and being a Freemason. Why? Because my father is a member of the Freemasons. So, Pop, you're here now. Can you give me an overview of who you are as a Mason and how you
Yes, I
became a
became a
Mason?
Mason exactly 1 month after my 18th birthday. Yeah,
1 month
I
after
was
your
I was
18th birthday.
18 years old on November 3rd, almost 1 month, and I got initiated to the Freemason on November 29th.
So,
Less than a month.
roughly 1970, November, so roughly 1970. November 29th, you were inducted to being a Freemason and joining Freemasonry. What does that mean exactly? So let me before you answer that question, we always hear for centuries Freemasons, Freemason this, Freemason that. You hear different things. Oh my God, they're a secret society. Oh, they control this, they control that. They're a part of this, they're a part of that. You even hear people try to tie in devil worshiping. You hear people try to tie in lewd acts and lewd people. They try to tie in anything that's negative to a quote unquote secret society. Even in a culture as young as hip hop culture, we hear people get referred to as, oh, these rappers, they're successful because they're
Yeah,
Freemasons
they give Freemason a
and
bad
Jay-Z's
name.
a Freemason. So yeah, so in short, what I'm saying is Freemasons and Freemasonry, if I'm saying that correctly. So please correct me if I'm saying that wrong. We It's given a bad name. It's given a negative connotation. I want you, someone who's been a Freemason since November 29th, 1970, on his 18th birthday year. Why? Oh no, what is a Freemason? What does it entail? What is the crux of being a Freemason? And
All
how
right,
does it
let me tell
benefit
you
you?
something. First of all, there's nothing secret about Freemasonry. The reason I'm saying that is anybody can be an adept, can be initiated to the Freemason. So they don't go around and pick up,
Okay.
people. You bring yourself up and you want to be a Freemason, you can be a Freemason. So when you're talking about something secret, that's when it's like they select a few people to be part of something. But if it's open to the public, so it's not secret. So what they mean by secret is, I'm going to tell you exactly how that secretive idea came to fruit. Because when you initiate it, the first day you initiate it, they give you a word. The word, what I mean, it's like you have a passcode on your cell phone, right? If you have a passcode on your cell phone, not everybody can knows about it, right? You do something on my phone, and you ask me what my passcode. I give it to you because I trust you with my phone. So the thing is, the reason they give passcode is not only when you just initiate it, each step of the way until you reach the 33rd degrees, then they had a different password. That's made like a different passcode. The reason is, it's like when they do something, let's say the apprentice, when they just initiated, they do something, you give the passcode for the apprentice to be inside. But if they do something in the master, you know what I'm saying? Or something in the to prevent somebody from like an apprentice to go to a ceremony of the 30 degrees. So each grade, each degrees, they have a different password. That's what people could not understand. They think there's a secret. It's not secret. It's like a passcode for each step of the way you going up. Now, the problem is they give Freemasonry bad name. Freemasonry bad name is because Freemasonry, the studies didn't start with them. The studies start way in antiquity. If you go back to Egypt, at that time they had
Egypt,
something
right.
the same as Freemasonry, but they didn't call it that. But that was the same study. What kind of study it is? You study about men, about life, about the universe, and about who was you before you was born and where you going after you die. So those kind of studies, when the Freemasonry was born, was founded, right? At a time, religion was all powerful. There was democracy nowhere in the world. So, in order for the Freemasonry to thrive, to be functionable, they have to institute things like the password, the passcode for each degrees. So people keep saying, "Oh, why can't anybody come and show up in the Freemasonry like people go to church?" But the difference is in the church, they preach you. They preach you. They read the Bible with you, but they don't teach in the church. They don't teach you. But in
They teach you, but they
Freemasonry,
don't teach you.
they teach about everything you read in the Bible. Or it's not only, no, before I forget, some people take that as an excuse to criticize Freemasonry because they say, "Oh, it's about Jewish things, about Jew." No, because listen to this. Even in the Muslim religion, there's something they call the Sufism. Sufism.
The Suf-
Sufism. Sufism. Yeah, it's the same thing like Freemason and was a Christian, because I'm a member of the Rosicrucian also. But it's the same kind of thing. So the difference between Freemasonry and the religion is the same thing. Is the difference between the Sufism and the Muslim religion. They teach what the Muslim religion don't teach you. I'm gonna give you one example.
Sure,
Like
please.
in the Bible, in the beginning, they say God created the earth and the heaven and stuff like that, right? In Genesis.
Right.
But
In
right there,
Genesis.
we're
Right.
gonna elaborate on this. In the original Torah, because we need to
In the original
understand
Torah
the Bible is a translation of the Torah,
translation.
the original Bible. So when they say God created the earth and the heaven, the very first line is wrongly translated, or there's a reason for it. They translate it like that because he didn't say that at all. I'm gonna tell you what he said. It's very interesting. In the original, they said
Tell me.
the Elohim created the earth, not God. Yeah.
Elohim.
Now
The
we're gonna ask
Elohim, right.
yourself the question: how come the Bible say God created the earth, and I'm saying the Elohim created the earth? Who was the Elohim? Who were the Elohim? The Elohim, they were the angel, the entity created by God to build the universe. So God himself didn't get involved in creating the planets. He let that to the Elohim to do, because that's your job.
Elohim are specific angels tasked to create stuff like
Planetary,
worlds and whatnot.
stuff like that.
I mean,
Now, the same way, because there's a different kind of what do you call angels? Because there's angels. The name angels really came from Angelos, Greek. The meaning is messenger, like
messenger.
Gabriel was a messenger. You see, Gabriel came to announce like Jesus was going to born. It's the same way in the Muslim religion. They use the same entity, Gabriel, yeah, to
Right.
say what's gonna happen and stuff
Gabriel.
like that, Muslim, the Quran and stuff like that. All those studies, like I'm saying, in Freemasonry, you study them. You don't just come and read the Bible
Right.
to you. You study thing they don't teach you in the church. The church just telling you, and they're not teaching you.
I remember maybe like 20 years ago now, I was watching a film called Constantine. And in Constantine, they reference how there's parts of the Bible that haven't been exposed yet. There's other parts, there's like more chapters in the Bible than we know today through King James. There's other chapters about Lucifer more. There's other chapters. There's other chapters that we don't read normally that
Like
you can't
Enoch.
find in a normal Bible in the bookstore. Like
You know why?
Like the Enoch
Do you know
chapters,
why?
right?
I'm going to tell you why.
Right.
Because
Why is that?
Enoch is talking about interstellar, interplanetary traveling. They're not gonna, they're not gonna discuss that
Interplanetary travel.
in the Sunday Mass because
And why is that?
they don't need you because your mind's gonna be open to a lot of questions, to a lot of subject that you will, put.
That's
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
outside of the
You know what I'm
simple
saying?
Jesus story.
But and another thing, when you read in the Bible doesn't speak about reincarnation. But when you read the Bible,
Really?
you see the guys when they was talking about Jay-Z in some verse, they was talking about Saint John Baptist, and they say, who is he? Is it Elijah who say was coming back? That's the only way they could have think that Elijah will come back as Saint John Baptist if he reincarnated to Saint John Baptist. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of topic
Right.
that they don't teach in the church, but you got to study them when you're a Freemason. But that's in secret. The secret was at the time the Freemason was founded, the church was so powerful because if you stop talking about Tang, who's not in the norm of what the church was teaching, they will get you.
It'll ruffle feathers. It'll
Not
make you
only
an
that, you get killed.
outcast.
Yeah, they did that in South France.
You get killed.
They did that in South France. There's a place they call Montsegur. They went to this area and they killed a lot of people because they had they was talking about things that was different from what the Catholic were teaching. It's recorded in history.
Right. Real quick, I never asked you, but I meant to ask you: is there an actual time in history that we can go back to and say this is where the Genesis of Freemason started, or was first originated and fully functional? Is there a time period, or
Let me tell you,
it's unknown?
what we call Freemason has always existed, but under other name, because there was always initiation. Even go back to Akhenaten. He was a pharaoh from Egypt, and that was the reason they killed him, because the people because before him they worship Amun. He was the first one to come with the one god, Aton, Aton.
Right.
Yeah. So his name was
ATON.
Akhenaten. So in order to know about this thing, you have to be initiated. They teach you the same way you have to make Freemason. So those teaching was there way long time ago. But in the 18th century, I think it was 1714, something like that, the English founded the Freemason. But people always think Freemasonry was founded around that time, but it was there in the 1500 in Scotland. Scotland was really the one who founded Freemason. Why? I'm going to explain the why. I don't know if you've ever heard about the Templar.
The Templars.
Okay, the Templars.
I've heard
The
of Knights of Templars.
When they went to the east, like to Jerusalem, when they came back with a lot of studies, with a lot of parchment, with a lot of books, that people didn't know. So the Templar was so powerful in Europe. The Pope and Philippe le Bel, the King of France, decided to did away with them because the temple, they was the first who came with the hospital, with the idea of the hospital. Yeah, the founder of the hospital. And then they had a lot of money. But Philippe le Bel, King of France, who needed money, and the Pope VI, I forgot his name, but this Pope, he found that the Templar was so annoying to the Catholic Church. So the two of them, they conquered something. They say the Templar was gay, they desecrate Jesus. They took the crucifix and stepped on it and spit on them. They smeared the Templar's
They
name,
smeared the Templar's name.
in order to kill them. So what they did on one Friday the 13th, that's where you get Friday the 13th. Yeah, one Friday the 13th,
That's really Friday
they
the
went
13th.
around Europe and round up all the Templars and start killing them. And some of them, from France, they left and went to Scotland. They went to hiding in Scotland. It was from them that Freemasonry came. Yes.
Genesis of it. Okay. Okay. So under the guise of
Philip Le Bel.
King
Yeah, King
Philip, what
Philip
was
Le
his name?
Bel.
King Philip Le Bel and the Catholic Church, their idea was to root out any Templars who were teaching teachings that challenge thought, challenge perspective, give another side to how to understand us as human beings in this planet.
Yes. Yes. We need to understand
Go ahead.
around that time, everything went around the church. The church was all powerful, omnipotent. The church was even powerful than the king. So whatever they said
Right.
was right. That's the
Right. Because we're living in a primitive time where the idea of church and God is weaponized to bend the knee of citizens, to bend the knee of powerful beings. The idea of church and God is wielded
control.
to control.
And the reason was the church didn't want nobody to deviate. You got me? From their teaching.
I'm
And
with
the
you.
Freemasonry was talking some
teachings,
stuff that could open the mind of the people. And it ain't like that. Like I was telling you before about the first line, the very first line on the Genesis. And there was something else. They let us know about Adam and Eve. Eve was taken out of the bone from Adam. All right? How can you do something like that? They was born hermaphrodite. You know what hermaphrodite is? Yeah. Eden, he was born hermaphrodite.
Hermaphrodite, yeah.
Like one, you got two person in one, like the Siamese twins. So that was it.
Wait.
They had to separate them, make them one male and one female. And it's easy to see that by yourself. In Genesis, there's two creation of Adam and Eve. People just bypass it. You'll see there was two creation of Adam and Eve. And then you will understand that's what it was. They had to separate them to make one male and one female. They had to separate them. And there's something else. When we're talking about Cain, you remember Cain? Cain, yeah, Cain and Abel. After
Cain and
Cain
Abel?
killed Abel, what the Bible said he
Right.
did. He went to hiding and built a city. Let's stop here for a while. How one man can go and build a house by himself. They didn't say a youth, hoot, or a little thing. House, and then how a man can build a city by himself. And for whom? For whom? If you're going to build a city, that means you build a city for a lot of people to live in, right? Community. So where does people come from for him to build a city? That's another interrogation point, right? So all those things, you get to study them in Freemason. Why, how it's happened, can build a city, and for whom?
You would say most religions give you direct instruction to do, as opposed to Freemasonry
Definitely.
teaches you the why and the hows.
That's why they give them bad name.
Okay.
Because they don't want them to open people's mind,
Explain.
The Satan worshiper, they say all the time, since you know me, right? I'm a Mason. Did you ever saw me worship
Of course.
any Satan at all?
No, I've only seen you as a man of knowledge and pursuit of knowledge. Let me ask you, I'm not going to ask you to reveal too much about your personal teachings because we could be here all night. And plus, I don't know what is privileged and not privileged to share. What I will ask you is, growing up, I used your car a lot. I've used your vehicle a lot to travel. And then, in fact, lately, and then shortly after, you gave me one of your vehicles to own, and you would have a symbol on the back of your car. It was green. It was a circle. It was green, and it was a symbol. As a matter of fact, I think you're wearing a ring. Am I right? You're wearing a ring. Okay, you're wearing a ring right now. It's like a red ring. Okay, come a
Sorry.
little higher up until go to your left. There you go. There, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so between those two symbols, what are those symbols representing
Square
exactly?
and the compass. It's to teach
Square and
you
the compass.
how to conduct yourself, how to draw. You draw the line around you, and you draw to guide you. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, the square and the compass. Okay, awesome. All right, all right. Oh, I get it. I get it. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, because like I said, I've used your vehicle before, and let's say I got pulled over by a cop, and they saw that vehicle. Depending on who that cop was, they let me go. I said, "Thank you." I had no idea the significance, the significance
And
of the
I'm telling you,
symbol and the
it
logo,
doesn't
but
matter which
I.
race you are. You see, anytime you're Mason,
So you're saying
either
that
you're white, Asian, or black, you are a brother. Do you know why?
your brother.
Because they
Why?
all the Masons, isn't even Philippine or China or Japan or here or wherever, Africa, they're teaching the same thing, fraternity and the love of the human
Fraternity.
being.
Have you ever had experiences with meeting different members of different
All the time,
communities, different ethnics, different races, different continents? And is it an
all the
immediate
time,
respect?
immediate
Immediate?
respect.
How
They
is it?
don't, it doesn't matter if they didn't know you before. You know, sometimes people pass and even white or whatever, black, and they passing me the pep, 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 and then they show me the sign and why they did that. Sometimes they ask me, where's your mother? Yeah, that's when your mother
Where's your
lunch,
mother?
where you was initiated. Where is your mother?
Where's your mother? Interesting. Where's your mother? So that's a calling. That's a calling card you can have with another brother. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Where's your mother? Interesting. But how do you know someone off the street is a brother and to
Okay, let
begin
me
with?
tell you.
What do you know? How do you know?
One day my car broke down, right? I was coming back from work upstate and my car broke down. And I was standing in a certain way, doing a certain sign. Automatically, there was a white, older person. He stopped and he said, brother, you have a problem? What's wrong? Because he recognized the way I was standing and the sign that I made. Let's say, I'm not going to show you the sign, but let's say for the sake of, understanding, the sign was like that. You know what I'm saying? And when he saw it, that's not
Sure.
really the sign. But just to as an example, yeah. When he saw me,
For
he
example,
stopped and asked me what's the problem. I say, my car broke down and there's no way I can reach where I was. I can reach mechanic. You know what he did? He put me in his car, went back in his
you do.
town. It was upstate. Get a mechanic and come back with a mechanic to check the car for me. It's a stranger.
A stranger.
And when I have to tell you, he was a white
Stranger.
older man.
A
Yeah.
white older man. Oh,
This is how it works.
interesting. Well, I can respect that because that's a certain type of discipline and community and togetherness that I wish more people across the world had because that just shows that there is a
Yes,
common goal and a
because
common cause.
they teach you, the love of humanity, the respect of human being, and they teach you philosophy, esotericism,
Philosophy.
mysticism. When I say mysticism, I'm thinking because what you really see in life is a lot of stuff that you don't know. People bypass, even in philosophy. You know what I'm saying? So they teach you exactly how life
Right.
is, and I love should have been because there's a lot of bad thing going on in this world, and even before. If people had more understanding
Absolutely.
of what love is, of what empathy is that they teach you in Freemasonry, life will be better for each other. That's the reason I respect anybody, I don't hate nobody, no matter who you are, no matter from
Right. You like
which race you are. If you want to hate me, that's your loss. Because you know something? Because when you don't hate, the people who hate you is like a boomerang. They hate come back to them because it's like standing in front of the
right, like a
wall
boomerang.
and you take an egg and you bang, what's gonna happen? The egg gonna splash in your face. But it's the same way. People only tend to see
it'll bounce
the
back at you.
material thing in life, but there's more in life than the material life. Because let me give you one example. Is that never happened to you? That happened to everybody. You pick up the phone, you're gonna call somebody, and the phone ring, and when you pick it up, it's exactly the same person you was going to call. That's happened to people all the
Yeah.
time, but I don't know why. The reason is this: there's fluid, there's magnetic fluid, there's vibe going around that you don't see. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And
Magnetic fluid
then
and vibes going
in
around.
Freemasonry, they teach you how to make those natural magnetic field, magnetic vibe, those wavelength, the positive wavelength, because around you, there's positive wavelength and negative wavelength going around you, because people do it bad thing, people having bad thought, because there's thing that you can't see, but they really exist. Why? You are people doing bad thing all the time, and they go and act on it. But in order to go and act on it, they have been thinking about it first. I don't know if you see what I'm saying. That's mean
I'm with you. I'm with
it's
you
not
100%.
life is not only a material thing. It's a spiritual thing, because you have to think of doing something good or bad before you really do it. That's when it exists in you even before you act on it. So that's the way it is. So in Freemasonry, they teach you how to use those things to your own benefit and to benefit other people. Exactly.
Positive wavelength energy, negative wavelength energy. I hear you. You know, before we continue, I have to share some with you. This has been going on with me for the past few weeks. And I'm not nervous about this or scared by it, but I've noticed it. For the past few weeks, whenever I check my phone, not whenever, but certain times I would check my phone just for the time, just to know what time it is. It was always 11:17. 11:17, my birth date. So like I'll be like, doing errands and doing stuff at work. And I say to myself, I wonder what time it is right now. Check my phone, 11:17. It'd be nighttime. I'm changing Charlie's diaper. She's going to sleep, but she's fighting to sleep. She needs a diaper change. I change the diaper. I say, okay, what time is it? It's late. What time is it? Look, 11:17. This has been going on for the past few weeks where I check my time and it's 11:17.
Do you want to know my
I'm wondering,
input
what the hell does that mean?
on this? I
Go
think
ahead.
it's time to find
Go
yourself.
ahead.
Maybe it's
You think
what
it's
I
time
tell
to
you
find
is
myself?
deep. I'm
Damn, I
gonna
didn't think
tell you.
about that. Damn.
When
It's
was
time
you
to
born?
find myself.
17. That say you should go
11:17.
back to before you was born. I'm gonna tell you the reason I'm saying that. Because nobody, unless you are an initiate, you don't know where was you before you was born. But it's important to go and study about that.
Yeah. I definitely need to have more knowledge of self. I need to dig deeper spiritually and more intellectually about who I am,
Exactly.
what's
Do you
my
know the problem
purpose, and
is
where am I
in
going.
the world? People separate the spiritual part from the material part, but they together. Yes, before you was born, you was only spiritual. But when you came here, everybody was born here. You born for a purpose. But that purpose, you have to find out the reason behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Do you know
Yes, I
what your
found it.
purpose has been? When did you find it? What is it?
Let me
And are
tell
you
you
allowed to
something.
share it?
The thing is, the reason you need to find it, and I found it, is I always say to myself, there's a lot of stuff I don't understand, I don't know. I have to know. Or when I want to study and find them about and find out who I was before, I had to go back to the 15th century and I found who I was at a time. And then what I found, yes,
So you had to go
to
back to the
see
15th century? How did
I can
you do
explain
that?
it now. It's different. Even I explain it, people
Okay.
will not pick it up. They will not agree with it. But one thing, I have to tell you something. When I go back to 15th century and saw who I was at the time, I didn't like it. I didn't like the person I was.
It's funny you said.
So that's mean
Okay, so
I had to come back here in this life to perfect myself.
you're talking in a roundabout, in a smaller way.
Exactly.
You're referencing reincarnation.
I didn't want to say the word.
Okay, I know, but I'll say, You know, it's funny. It's funny we talk about reincarnation because one time I don't remember. I don't know if you remember this, but a few years ago we were having a conversation about the Earth, and you said something to me, and I'm going to paraphrase here because I don't remember the words exactly. But you said something to me in the effect of the way we know the world now: internet, phones, presidents, cars. This is just one iteration of how this planet has been, but we may have had different versions of this planet. That's you know that's this may not be the first time this planet has gone through this iteration of technology. Of like you were saying basically that like there's probably been multiple times we've as a
I'm
society
gonna
and civilization
I'm
have
gonna
had
elaborate on this.
have had higher tech, have had certain
I'm gonna
technology, a
give you an
certain way of
idea, and
civilization.
the people will listen. I'm gonna give them something to think about. You don't have to be agree with me, but
By all means, go ahead.
anytime you have a mind who can analyze, but you're gonna try to analyze what I'm going to say. First of all, it's in the Bible. Nothing is new under the sun. Okay, now I'll start with
Nothing's new
that,
under the
with
sun.
this.
That's true.
So now we're gonna try to analyze a situation. Remember in the Bible when they say God gonna flood the earth, and it took a pair of each animals, right, and put in the Noah ark, right? Listen, and
Right.
they gave you the length and the wide of the ark. How? Yes, I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna ask the people who listen to me. How can you fit some animals? No. Not all animal could in the world or in that area could fit in the ark. There's only one way that could have been done. It's the seeds. And in order to do that with the seeds, there have to be a civilization modern like us. You can't take the seeds and froze the embryo in order to do that. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does
it's
that make sense?
no.
But let's go back again. If you can't fit all the animal in the ark, that's the only way to do it. So that's mean
Right.
there was a
Makes
civilization.
sense.
There was a civilization like us before. And I'm gonna give you one the reason they hide it from us. Because this civilization, this one we are living in is run by white people. But before that area I was telling you, it was run by black people. That's gonna be hard to swallow. That was a Kush civilization. Kush civilization.
So I've
It
heard of the
was
Kush
not people
people.
with long robe and riding chariot, and riding on horse. They had a civilization exactly the one we have now.
Kingdom of the Kush
Exactly.
in ancient in
So
Nubia.
remember, did you ever heard about the big-headed statue in Guatemala and Mexico on the Mayan land? You got to check that out.
We had a statue.
They they had like
And
and
in
in the Mayan
Guatemala,
land between Guatemala and Mexico. That's where the Indian Mayan was living. So there was a civilization called the Olmec. It was black people. And when you look at those big-headed statues, what do you see? They were statues of black people with big lips, flat nose, all the features of Negroid features.
what were they called?
The
The what
Olmecs.
people? What were the people?
And the people who came after,
Almix.
they trying to say, oh, the Olmecs was Indian and stuff like that. Why the Olmecs was Indians and they look like black people? You know what I'm saying?
People, okay. Yeah, in the
Exactly.
Mesoamerica area,
Yes.
Olmec, Olmec, Olmec people, okay, in South
Modern day,
America, in
like
modern day
they
South America,
between Guatemala and Mexico. That's the Maya Indian land. M-A-E.
Mayan Indian land, right? So they were an advanced
And
black
then the thing is,
civilization.
it was all around the world, in Europe, everywhere. They were in India also. Do you know the country you get more black people than every other country? It's India. It's not in Africa.
Yeah, there's a country, all right, in Nepal. I think it's Nepal, or it's another country close to Nepal that starts with a B. But I was watching a video the other day. There's a small section of an island of people. They're very black,
Yeah, I know.
and they've been cut off from civilization for years, hundreds of thousands of years. They have their own culture, their own identity. It'll come to me. But in fact, people are scared to go over there because they don't want to mess with their They said their genealogy is
Oh
so
yes, yeah, they
intact
mingle with
to
nobody
their
else.
tribes only. They don't mingle with nobody else. But they have certain customs. Their hair is just as
So they're black everywhere.
African or
When
as black.
the Spaniard came to America, they found Indian like in French Guyana, I'm saying Indian, sorry, black people over there. Even in
Right.
America, there was black people. They called them Indian doing they put that under the rug because they never want to say they found
Right,
black
right,
people in this country because they would have some explaining to do. So black people was
right.
everywhere in the world. It was after the upheaval, flood and everything, thing got separated and stuff like that.
Separated and
It's like now civilization, not a modern civilization, is mostly ruled by white people. If let's say there's another flood, Europe, what would be of Europe? Few people.
It could be the
You know what
Asians
I'm
next.
saying? And in 2000, 3000
Right.
years, when you would find them, that's exactly what happened to Africa and other white, black people where they were living. So the
Right.
Kush civilization was very intense and high civilization. Let me tell you something. They always talk. They talk about the numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. They say it was invented by the Arabs. That's not true. Who brought it to the Arabs? There was a tribe they called Madian.
That's
Magian tribes, I'm going to tell you about the Magian tribes. The Magian tribes was black people. They left Nubia because there was a drought, right? And they went close to Israel. That's the reason Moses married Sephora. Sephora was a black woman from Madian. And his father, Moses' father-in-law, is the one who initiated Moses to, to, to what? To Jehovah. Jehovah because the Hebrew, the Jew, didn't know Jehovah before. Jehovah is the Negro God. Yeah, that's
it's a Negro guy, right?
that's a Sephora father who initiated Moses to that God because they didn't know that God before.
Mm. I gotta study this
Madian tribe,
Madian tribe. How you say it?
Madian.
Madian.
It was them who brought the worlds to the area.
Madian. Yeah, Madian. Okay, I'm gonna look them up. I see Madyan, but you said Madian. Madian. Madian tribe. Okay. I want to ask you as well about. I want to ask you as well about the Kemet people.
Yeah, Kemet people.
Kemet, is it Kemet? Am I saying that
The
right?
old
Kemet?
Egyptian.
Is that the old Egyptians? The old Egyptians. So they preceded the Arabic
Yeah.
Egyptians
It's like the
first.
same way in Haiti. Before you had Indian, and after you have Haitian coming from.
Before,
Yeah.
so I said that you had Tainos and then
So
you had
so
Haitians. Same
everything
concept.
in Egypt was built by them.
I've heard various stories. I've heard stories of
They try to hide it.
giants. I've heard giants. When it comes to the pyramids, I've heard giants helped out. I heard aliens. I heard aliens helped out. What do you know about the pyramids as far as a true explanation of its existence and erection? What is it? What do you know?
The Egyptian, the
Just
black Egyptian built the
indulge me.
pyramids because, like we just said before, they had a they had a higher civilization even than what we have now.
Okay, so whatever tools, resources, potential machinery, whatever it was,
There's only one way they could have built it. Do you know the Japanese tried to build a pyramid? They could not even go past the base of the pyramid with all the machinery they have, modern machinery they have now. If you check it out, Google it when you finish telling me.
Right.
You see, the Japanese, they thought they could have built something like that. They could not pass the base of the pyramid. They could not. That's mean in order to build something like that, you have to add a basic. And then something else, when you study further the pyramid, you see the contact between the pyramid and the constellation of Orion. There's a lot of things that you won't have time to talk to. You know what I'm
Of
saying?
course, it's deep. I get it. I get it. I mean, listen, I can do a whole hour of just interstellar, celestial conversations, but I remember away from interstellar stuff. I remember back in 2003, 2002, there was a fictional book that had a lot of religious people upset called the Da Vinci Code. And I remember people were offended because they said, how could you mortalize Jesus and how could you make Mary Magdalene an
That's
actual
another.
wife, an actual partner? And I'm just like, first of all, you weren't there either. So what do you know? You know what I'm saying? That's one. And two, I just feel like if you got her that upset,
You know something?
that means you've been
I'm
trained
not gonna
well.
try to make them more upset, but I'm
But
just gonna give them a clue, and they could follow the clue if they want to. You know, sometimes people there's a saying in French that you say aveugle celui qui ne veut pas voir. That's mean I'm gonna translate it. It's the worst blind. It's the one who try not to see. Something like that. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I know the phrase. The worst blind is one. The
Yeah.
worst blind is the
So
one who tries not to say. Yes,
I'm
I've
gonna
heard that
give you
phrase.
to talk a little bit about Mary Magdalene and Jesus. I'm not gonna have the religion go after me, but no. What? No,
No, no, no. I'm not saying
I'm
that.
just kidding. But I'm just gonna explain something. You're gonna make them think. And what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna take it not from Freemasonry, not from other books, not from the Da Vinci Code. I'm gonna take it from the own book and the tradition, the Jewish people. Okay, let me start. In the tradition of the Jesus people, when a man, first of all, you have to know Jesus was a master. I'm not the one who say anytime they address him, they didn't address him as God or address him like Jesus. Sometimes they address him like teacher. That's not my saying. It's in the Bible. They address him as teacher or master. So he was a master because Jesus was an initiate also to the mysteries. So, and what a master is in that time in the Hebrew religion, he was a rabbi. That's what it really means. And in order to be a rabbi, you have to be married. That's a bomb. Yes,
Really
I just dropped a bomb.
interesting. Drop a bomb, and to be a rabbi, to be a master, you have to be wedded. Interesting. And Jesus was referred to in the
Yeah.
Bible as a
Then
master, as a
something
teacher.
else. What I just said, it was not my saying. It's in the religious, it's in the Hebrew religion. But people tend to forget Jesus was a Christian. Jesus was born a Jew and died as a Jew. They make a
Right.
good religion in his name. But you need to understand the context
His name.
in the time he was killed. Because the Roman tried to make people understand that the Jew killed him. That wasn't the truth. That wasn't the truth. That was
Say
Paul hate
Jews killed
for the
Jesus. That's what
Jews.
you always hear.
Let me tell you something. That wasn't true. Jesus died because people keep saying he was the rightful heir of the throne of Israel. So the Roman they was wary about it and they killed him. I'm going to tell you something. If the Jew was going to kill Jesus, the way to kill people was not crucifixion. It was with wax, stoning, and Jesus wasn't stoned.
Stoning him.
That's when if the Jew was going to kill him, they would have run him up, you know what I'm saying, and stone him to death. But the only people on that time he was killing people
Right.
on the crucifix, on the cross, who? The Romans. So what does that say?
The Romans.
Now, let's go further. When a Jew around that time, like a rabbi, died, there's a tradition. If that person, I'm talking about, I think wrong, it was a man around that time died. If it's like he's not married, there's something they have to do. There's a burial right, rites. They have to do after 3 days of his death. They go, they took him from the tomb, they put stuff on him, and then all kind of stuff, and then they put him back. If you're not married, who's going to do it? Your mother. But if you're married, who's going first in the forefront to do it? Your wife. And now, what do we read in the Bible? Who went to Jesus after 3 days he died? Who do you think went? That's it. That's
Mary.
not my
Mary
saying.
Magdalene. I think I've even seen later on in life, later on in civilization, when Leonardo da Vinci painted his his Last Supper painting. I think one of the people who is on his right side or one of his sides, it's revealed that that is an
Yeah,
adaptation
she
of
was
Mary
there
Magdalene
because
by his side.
we were living in the
She was there,
patriarchal society. So women, they wasn't considering women as
patriarchal.
nothing. So women has no say. But one thing they forgot: who was back home? Jesus' ministry. Three women: Mary Bethania,
Three women.
Mary Magdala,
Mary
and Mary
Britannia.
Salome.
Hold on. Mary
Mary Salome
Britannia, Mary, how you spell Mary Britannia? Mary Britannia, hold on, let me go. Mary Britannia, Mary Britannia,
and Mary
Mary
Magdalene.
Solomon,
And one of them
and Mary Magdalene.
was really the
Interesting.
richest one who was, bank holder, the movement. It was Mary Salome. He had his husband was a centurion, woman centurion, as in like a captain of the of the woman God. She was a rich woman because with a movement like Jesus movement, you need money because they're going from town to town. People have to eat every day. If they think that Jesus was going to do miracle every day to give people food, they are wrong.
Interesting. I gotta do my homework on
Yeah.
Mary Britannia. How you say it?
No.
Mary
Betha.
Bott.
And you will check it after. We'll check it after. Yeah.
Mary Bethany?
Mary Bethany. Yeah.
Mary Bethany? Yeah, Mary Bethany,
Salome.
Mary Solomon.
Salome.
Solomon.
Sometimes they change the name. I'm giving you the original name.
I've heard of these names, but I've been meaning to really do my homework on. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
But
So,
if you
you
when you
know,
look in the New Testament, they don't speak about those women. It's in other scripture, like the Catholic Church took away. So you will hear some part like the other apostle didn't want Mary Magdalene to be part of them. But he was a prophet also. He wrote books also. But the Catholic Church hide them.
well, interesting. I gotta, it's all, it's always sad to hear the distortion of Jesus' story over the last few centuries because, I don't know who he was as a person, as a man. I only know what I read thus far. But it seems like one man, even after his death, his name was bastardized to become so many different things for so many people, distorted, abused, and now used for evil just as much as good. So, his legacy is twisted. And I feel like in the last few centuries, he's been more of a vessel to contribute whatever you want versus honoring his life and whatever he may have wanted. And the same goes for various other spiritual
Yeah, definitely.
figures in our history. It's just power corrupts. Real quick before you continue, can you give me quickly the genesis of the King James Bible and the meeting that took place for King James to have that Bible written? Because I heard it was because of a divorce.
Well, let me
Was
tell
that
you,
true?
King James was a Mason himself. Yes.
He
So,
was a Mason.
like, I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of stuff was written originally in the King James, didn't come down to us.
So King James was a Mason. Interesting. I got to do my homework on that in general. But let me get back to Masonry, Freemasonry. So you're telling me since the beginning of time, Freemasonry and Freemasons have been a way to learn and question knowledge, to gain knowledge, to question why and how things have come to be, to give a better understanding about our planet,
Life in
and not just
general.
our planet, but interstellar relationships, life in general. Okay, and then we covered why it's been used and abused through control, power, and religion to be smeared. And you also explained to me thus far how day to day a Freemasonry can be a brotherhood that can be used to be beneficial to help each other, man to man, person to person. I want to ask you a quick question. Is Freemasonry exclusive to men,
Guess
to
what? Your
brotherhoods,
sister
or are there
is a
women
Freemason.
Freemasons?
I took her when she was
I
18.
thought she was. Thought she was. I never questioned her about it, but I thought she was. I gotta talk to you after hours about me becoming a Freemason and what that would be responsibility wise, because it's something that I'm interested in. I remember when she turned 18, that was a topic of conversation. I remember. Well, and whenever I get a chance, I'll talk to her about it. Okay, interesting. So you have women Freemasons,
And I have to tell you, when I
it's a
was taking her,
brotherhood,
your
but
mother gave me a
there's
hard time
women.
about it because
Why?
it's people are mistaken about Freemason. So even her, she was mistaken about it too. She thought I was taking her to the bad thing. I said, listen, why would I take my own daughter to something I know really is bad?
Right, right.
I'm doing exactly what my father did for me. The thing is,
So
there's one
makes
word
sense.
I forgot to say about Freemason. It's an enlightenment. We can resume it is one word.
Enlightenment, enlightenment,
Enlightenment.
enlightenment, enlightenment. Right. And so enlightenment is a big part of becoming a Freemason. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I think I got it in a nutshell as far as what
But we
to
should we
how
should we
to
should we should,
explain it
we
to
should come
people.
back and do part two on this. There's a lot to cover.
We will, and we will, and I'll get. There's a lot to cover. All right, all right. So this will be the stop for now, and I'm gonna do my homework on some of the things we covered. The Kush Kingdom, the Three Marys, the various civilizations and iteration that come before us, and also just for the record, there's also popular Freemasons that we've had in our American civilization. I think
Yeah,
George Washington was a Freemason.
and even
I
the
think a few other
Bible
people
we
were
were swearing
Freemasons.
on it until now. It's a Bible they took from a lodge, from Freemasonry lodge.
Malak. Right, right, right. All right. Interesting. Interesting. Well, I
Well,
don't think I have any more questions
you will
right now at
have
the
more
moment.
for the
I don't
part
think
two.
right, right, right for the part two. All right. Well, sir, thank you for this knowledge. Thank you for these words. I appreciate you breaking it down to us. And the
Yeah, it's
misconceptions.
all
I thank
about
you for breaking the
philosophy,
misconceptions.
mysticism, thing they have been hiding from us. That's what you learn. Like I just said, at the beginning of Genesis, that was only one example. There's a lot of examples, like Enoch travel, like
Example. All right.
Ezekiel, when he met, being from other world, and they say he had a vision.
Mhm.
He didn't have any vision. He
Interesting.
really see people coming from other world,
Interesting.
other stuff that we'll talk about.
Right. I'll just talk with another time. All right. Well, until next time, that's it. All I ask for you, keep your iPad on after I stop this recording so your vocals can upload fast. This is Charlie's feet. She's on my lap. Say
Hi,
hi,
Charlie.
Charlie. Anyway, I'll talk to
Okay.
you later, Pop. We'll talk next
Bye,
time. All right.
everybody.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.